thanks a lot for hanging out with us today on Positive Polarity Podcast. I'm totally honored today to have a co-author with me, somebody that's wrote a book on LinkedIn, Wayne Breitbarth. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Mr. Dave, always good to see you, my friend.
Zoom is so cool, so you had to get dressed. So that was the cool part.
I had to get dressed, and I fixed my hair. Can't you tell?
Yeah, exactly. I always heard that the part is wider on video, so that that's maybe your saving grace.
It probably is, but yeah, it is good to see you. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, LinkedIn right now is just such a hot topic. I'm doing regular calls with people, my clients, with other people on Zoom, and LinkedIn always comes in. So I want to jump in a little bit on that. But one of the questions that I had for you, in this podcast, we really focus on connecting business and personal. And so, years ago, it's almost 11 and a half years now, you started your company. And I was just curious, do you remember that day that you made that jump from owning a large office furniture dealership to where you jumped in to do, this on your own? Do you recall that very well?
So so for me, it was more of a morphing or a transitioning, because I didn't just go cold turkey and jump off the cliff.
Okay.
I was able to go to my partner and talk about this possibility at a time when we probably couldn't afford having two owners. So it made sense for him too.
Okay.
And then we just came up with an agreement that for the next couple of years, I would work my way out towards this.
Okay.
And then I'd have a soft launch.
Okay.
And he would have, and we'd get a new controller into the company and the things that I did and all that kind of stuff. So I was able to be blessed with that transition.
Sure. Okay. Because I remember sitting in one of your sessions, and you had talked about, like, you didn't even, if I remember correctly, you didn't even believe in LinkedIn at first.
Oh, that was the truth for sure. That that when a friend of mine from church, a Bible study guy, was bothering me during that recession to join LinkedIn, I said, I am not doing any of this stupid social media, Facebook stuff. And he said, you don't get it. I said, no, I don't get it. And I'm not going to get it.
Yeah,
exactly. And he just kept pushing Sunday after Sunday, telling me, don't complain about business, Wayne, if you don't listen to ideas like this.
Wow.
And that's what good friends do, right? Good friends will just push you in the chest and say, crap, listen to me. And finally I did listen to him. And what I saw, the breakthrough for me was when I moved it away from the social media space, which is what I thought it existed. And it did exist over there, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, to the best database of business professionals we've ever had access to for free.
Gotcha.
And Dave, it was only 60 million people in the database then. It's 660 million people.
Wow. That's crazy.
So when I saw that database, the accountant in me kicked in and said, whoa, that's sort of different. Nobody told me that. And then that's when I started teaching it with that concept in mind. Listen, you guys are not getting this. This is a database. We can find people, whether it's customers, suppliers, vendors, employees, like we've never been able to do before. And that was my whole teaching premise, was that difference.
Wow. So then you created the Formula LLC company that you're working on today, correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. So you outside of work, and for anyone listening, we're in the COVID-19 situation. So, obviously some of the things have stalled out, some of the events and things like that. Prior to this, though, you speak nationally, going around to conferences, to companies, and you share the LinkedIn story, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah. So part of my business is conferences, companies.
Okay.
Part of my business is individuals.
Okay.
Some of those individuals are job seekers. Some of those individuals are salespeople.
Gotcha.
So I do individual consultations as well.
Oh, awesome. Because it's funny, I still run into people that don't have a LinkedIn profile. They've heard of it, but they're in business and they don't think that they need it. And that was you 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And so when you've morphed and changed into that, do you still run into people that are not on board with it, or think it's a fad like the internet or a fad like TV, or is that pretty much gone now?
Well, what is gone is most people do have profiles now.
Okay.
But what isn't gone, and still probably half the people, they don't understand it.
Sure. Okay.
They have a profile because somebody said they should, but they still have not sat through the thought process to go, why do I have it? What should I do on it? What should my profile say?
Yeah.
Right. So they just have one, and that's, and you might as well not have one.
Sure. Well, it seems like, right? I mean, and so I do a ton of work with DISC assessments, which is a personality profile. And I tell people that if you're just going to take this assessment and then put it on the shelf, you know, never look at it again, never let it work for you, then it's better not to take it.
Yeah.
And that's probably the same scenario on your end. You're better off not having a profile. If you are connected to 3 people, there's no job information, there's really nothing there. Because so many people are using it, like you were talking about, from a job seeking perspective. I got to believe the people looking for people that's one of their first places they jump in.
If your profile is not done well, it's probably hurting you.
Wow.
And then having no profile, at least that could hurt you, but not to the extent, well, this guy's got a crappy profile.
Sure.
It would be, well, he just doesn't have one, so I can't judge him.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Wow. So you're saying a lot of people you run into, they're what, 30% done, 40%? What are you seeing as a rough idea of how far along, you know, people are with their profiles?
Yeah. So, you know, it isn't so much done or not done. What it is it's not written to reach their target audience.
Okay.
It's typically written looking like a resume from the last time they switched jobs, as opposed to being a resource for the clients and customers and prospects they're trying to build.
Gotcha. So purely from a job seeking perspective, I guess it's like not updating your resume, correct?
Right. So
I mean, and it's misspelling. I mean, I'm shocked at how many things are misspelled. They don't make sense. They're half sentences. The pictures are bad. I mean, all that, I'm assuming, has a real important effect on the person that's looking at their profile.
There's no question. But think about, here's a better example that your audience will catch.
Yeah.
It's this. Salesperson, let's say, has a line on his profile from when he was looking for work. And it says this: I'm the top gross profit producing salesperson in my organization for the last 10 years.
Sure.
That's a great statement if you're looking for work. Employers want guys like that.
Right,
but
right.
What does that say to a sales prospect?
Right.
You're my next victim.
Yeah.
I am going to make a lot of money off you, buddy. Come on.
Cha-ching, cha-ching. Absolutely. Yeah.
So to me, it's a turn off. Or even like having a skill. If your top skill says negotiation.
Yeah.
And you're reaching out to me because you want to negotiate with me.
Sure. Wow.
I'll pass.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Think about your target audience and what would they like, be turned on, learn from. And do I have statements on there that will definitely turn them off?
Wow. So do you then, like, for you on your profile, Wayne, do you have somebody that like critiques it? Or, you know, how if somebody, I know that's what you do for most people, and you can obviously do that anywhere, from anywhere. It doesn't need to be in person. So I'm assuming, you know, so kind of walk me through how that looks. Let's say I come to you, you know, which I have, I've come to you and you've gave me great feedback on, you know, things to change. And so is that kind of how you do it? You review their profile and then you give them some ideas on how to make some changes?
Yeah. So the way my virtual consultations work is you sign up and then you send me either your resume if it's for a job search, or you send me a profile of your customers that you're trying to grow.
Okay.
What are their titles? What are the industries? What's the region of the country?
Mm-hmm.
And from one of those pieces of information, then I'll sit down and critique your profile. I'll mark it up with a red pen, just like a good school teacher would.
Sure.
And then I email that back to you along with a couple of worksheets that I can tell we're going to talk through.
Okay.
And then we do a 1-hour recorded screen sharing session.
Okay.
And typically it breaks down into about a half of that time is on your profile and half that time is about who you're trying to reach. And let's do some searches. We do specific searches and we talk about, okay, do these people look good? Yeah, those people look good. Let's look at some profiles and decide what to do with those folks next to try to start a conversation.
Wow.
So, and I did 2 already this morning.
Okay.
Even before we got on today,
Awesome.
I've had 2 consultations. One person was from France.
Oh my gosh. So you're international now.
It's sort of fun. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
so you're not going to hang out with me anymore. So do I have to call you Mr. Breitbarth? Is that how this is going to work?
I always like hanging out with people that look younger than me. That makes me look better. And you're one of those guys. So anytime you want, buddy.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well,
I hope we can hang out pretty soon.
Yeah, no kidding. That's awesome. Wow. So then once somebody's, and this is, I think, where, like, for me as a coach, this is where I think that the challenge comes in, because let's say we invest this time and energy, and, you know, I have all these changes, I have all these ideas that you've given me, you know, the implementation part, I think, is really a challenge. So how do you work through that? Because I know for me coaching, if I go ahead and say, hey, Wayne, I think you should do this, 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 and this, whatever those are, and then I kind of leave and go on to my next part of my day, if you're not going to fulfill what we talked about, you're going to feel like that wasn't successful. So how do you circle back to people? How does that typically work?
Yeah. So what I do as part of my consultations is I will take one more look at your profile.
Oh, great. Okay.
When you email me and say, I think I'm done, Wayne, what do you think?
Excellent.
Okay. And then I'll email you back either my final blessing or my last 2 or 3 things that I don't think you followed through on.
Sure.
And I mean, after that, you're on your own.
Yep, absolutely.
But the point is, I do think you're bringing up a good point, though, that when I get to teach sales teams, then with sales teams, I talk about accountability.
Yep.
And I say, listen, we had the training today. We're going to have a follow-up webinar in a month. And after that, I'm going to disappear from your life.
Right.
Why don't you have accountability in this group to do better?
Sure.
We're gonna do these things from Wayne's book, chapter 3 this week and chapter 4 next week. Or how about this one? There's a thing called the LinkedIn Social Selling Index.
Okay.
If you've never gotten that, your listeners, you should go out and get that. Just Google LinkedIn Social Selling Index. Up will come an ad first from LinkedIn, and then the second item that shows up in the Google, click that, and it'll take you to a LinkedIn page where there's a button that says "Get Your Score Free."
Wow.
Click on Get Your Score Free, and it'll bring up this dashboard.
Okay.
And it'll score you from 1 to 100 on how good you are at the sales activities and profile for a typical person who's in business development. And it's really, and what's cool is when I work with sales teams, I'll tell them, everybody get their score and send it to me.
Okay.
Screenshot that page. Number one, it'll help me decide, and it shows you the things you're deficient at, the areas you need to do better.
Sure.
It helps me design the webinar a little better, but it also is a way for you to put a line in the sand and say, listen, this was my score on the day that we got Wayne's training, and I'm going to get serious.
Okay.
And we're going to move forward, and who's going to move forward the best, maybe win some prizes and that kind of thing, because it's an impartial scoring system on how you're doing on LinkedIn. It's really nice.
Wow. And it's called LinkedIn Social Selling
Index.
Okay. Wow. I didn't even know that. So thank you so much. So
check
you
it
Google
out.
that, and then you just, you just kind of follow the prompts.
And you click, the second item will take you to a page. There's a button, Get Your Score Free. And then once that comes up, it's a dashboard. It'll show you your score is 65, let's say.
Okay.
And then there's 4 categories that are all worth 25 points apiece. That's 100. So you got 32 points you need to work on. If you click any of the categories where you have a deficiency, a slideshow pops up to say, these are the 5 things you got to do better to move that category up.
Holy cow.
Pretty cool. And once you get your profile right, that's the first category for 25 points. You're typically, that 25 you got in the bag forever then. It's pretty good. But then it's the other, are you connecting with the right people? Are you posting and sharing and liking people's stuff? Are you messaging people? That kind of stuff.
Okay. So there's kind of 2 schools of thought. So I really value your opinion, because I run into people that they think that quantity. So first of all, how many, I know you have 500 plus connections. So you rang the bell at 500, whatever happens after that. How many connections do you have currently?
24,000.
Holy cow. So
you're capped at 30, by the way.
You're kidding.
No.
So they even on a paid version, doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter.
So what do you have to do, like Wayne L. Breitbarth, like a Spanish version of Wayne with another account, or what do you do?
So that's against the rules, have more than one. But what you have to do is you just have to sort of do some weeding.
Okay.
You know, go into your profile or look at your connections and let's say you eliminate, if you don't do business internationally. If
Sure.
back in the day you didn't know, you just let people come in.
Sure, for sure.
You just clean them out so that you got some room. That's all.
Okay. So the concept that I really try and understand, or that I think the listeners are going to want to understand, is two schools of thought. We either are going to go an inch, deep, and we're going to go a mile wide, and we're not going to have much interaction. We're more about getting to that 30,000, let's say. That's our goal, is to hit 30,000. You have those people, but then the reverse is there are people that think, you know what, if you're not connecting and reaching out and commenting and posting and sharing and liking the existing people, you're better off with an inch wide and a mile deep. So what's your concept on that? Because I'm really struggling on which one's the right one.
So both can work.
Okay.
It depends what you're trying to do.
Okay.
Perfect example. When I was in the furniture business, we sold furniture in southeastern Wisconsin, period.
Okay.
Meeting business folks from southeastern Wisconsin was all I cared about.
Okay.
I'm a mile deep, right?
Gotcha.
I'm business owners. I'm architects and designers in Milwaukee.
Sure. Okay.
Done.
Yeah.
Everybody else is no interest. Once I morphed to a LinkedIn guy who's trying to sell a book to millions of people, mile wide.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? Mile wide. So it really depends what your business looks like. Where's your customers? What are you selling? Are you selling a $15 book, or are you selling consulting services that all you need is a client, one new client every year, and you're good to go? Well, then you go a mile deep.
Gotcha.
Work those. You only need 300 relationships on an ongoing basis, so you get a new one every year.
Okay.
Then you don't mess with the noise of having 30,000 connections.
Gotcha. Great. Okay. That's awesome. So both can work. It just depends on which one you're going after. And I think that a lot of times, like when I'm in my coaching role for clients and for individuals, they don't even tend to stop long enough to think about that question.
You're right.
We're going so fast.
You're so right. The question I ask when I do consultations is,
I
will circle the 500 or whatever's on your profile, and I'll put a little note next to it and say, who's in here? Are they helping you? How can you grow this strategically?
Okay.
And the first question I go, who's in here? Well, I don't know. This and this and this. That's not a strategy.
Yep.
That's not a strategy. So you're telling me your network is sort of a bunch of crap. Yeah, it's a bunch of crap. Okay. From this point forward, let's not build it with a bunch of crap.
Right.
Let's build it with the right folks. Because they're there. They're on LinkedIn. Now, I'm not saying get rid of your church friends or your neighbors. Those are all fine connections, but they're not where your growth is going to take place.
Gotcha. Interesting. So you can't see this on the podcast, but we use the magic 8-ball a lot to determine, where we're going in our business. And unfortunately, that's why I wrote my book, Growing on Purpose, because so many people are growing by mistake. That's a prime example where if your LinkedIn profile does not have a very specific use and a path, then we're probably not using it to the maximum.
Bingo.
Okay, cool.
You could do this, man. You want to do
No. There's you. Wayne, there's you.
Cross the book name out.
No. Well, so it's LinkedIn Success is the name of the book, the power formula for LinkedIn success. So I tried really hard to come up with a better name, but I couldn't. So I'm like, I'm just going to let Wayne do it. So that's awesome. Why has LinkedIn remained so powerful and continues to grow? I mean, you probably know the ins and outs and the ups and downs of it. You've already taught me some stuff, and I'm sure some of the people listening didn't know some of this. So why does it continue to grow, and why does it continue to be such a powerful tool for us?
I think it continues to grow because we really don't have any competition.
Okay.
And it will be awfully hard for somebody to grow a new networking site to 660 million people when it's taken them almost 20 years to do that, Dave.
Wow.
So they got this juggernaut.
Yeah.
That even if you and I had all the money in the world and we said, we're going after LinkedIn because they don't do certain things right.
Sure. Yeah.
It took them 20 years to get 660 million folks. And that's the key. The key is they got this data.
So they're
and
20 years ahead.
So I think it's going to continue to grow in spite of the fact that I think they are not very customer friendly.
Okay.
Just like the other social media sites, they treat the customer. Now, most 80% of users ain't paying anything.
Right. Wow.
So, and we want to all get great service, even though we don't write a check.
Yeah,
to
exactly. You
so
get
I don't
what you
think
pay for, right?
Yeah, I don't think they're very customer focused. But that's what happens in business sometimes, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
When businesses don't have real strong competition, they don't tend to their knitting. And right. I wish they had a competitor.
Yeah.
Because I think that they would be better. And I think the only competitor LinkedIn could ever have is Facebook.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they got 2.5 billion.
Okay.
So if Facebook decided to have maybe a business profile, let's say, that looked like a resume, and maybe a separate set of friends, maybe they could take them on because they already got the bulk.
Right.
But to start from scratch, good luck.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. I mean, and I think, so you bring up a really good point, because I'm at that spot where I'm still using the free account, and, I'm not investing I read the statistics that said the best sales professionals are investing about 6 hours a week on LinkedIn, so roughly an hour a day. Hopefully you're in there, but again, then what are you doing in that hour? Are you looking for prospects, or are you just checking up on what your neighbors are doing? And, so you can get lost in there for sure. But when you look at the LinkedIn, the paid versus the free, what do you tend to tell people that, you run into, or that you coach? What's the best, or is there a best, or again, will it depend on your individual situation?
So whether the question of when do I need paid, if I ever do,
okay,
boils down to these issues. Are you running out of searches? So on free LinkedIn, they let you only do so many filtered people searches.
Okay.
Each calendar month.
Okay.
And then they shut you off till the next month begins.
How many is that? Do you know?
Nobody knows.
Oh, so
and they moved the goalpost. Hey, it's a great business model, right?
Yeah.
We can move
like the weatherman. You can be wrong and still be right. That's awesome.
Dave, believe me, you and I would love a business model like that. Well, we'll just tweak it back a little bit, and we'll get some more paid subscribers. This is a good deal, but only when you own the market, right?
Okay, sure.
So searches are important, and people get frustrated when they get shut out. Who's viewed your profile? On free LinkedIn, you can only see the last 5 people that looked at you. And if you're pretty active, that might mean you got to check it a couple times a day or every other day. And if you don't want to get in that routine, then Premium will give you 90 days worth of people that looked at your profile.
Okay.
What else do you get on Premium? You get the ability to set more than 3 search alerts for prospects. You only get 3 on free. You get depending on what level you're at, you go up from there. And search alerts are simple as this, Dave. Let's say you were going, and I did a search just the other day with a company that makes bakery equipment, machines that make bagels and stuff, right?
Oh, now I'm hungry. Thanks.
Yeah. And so they call on small bakeries, always up to a place like Palermo's, right?
Okay.
And we were looking for the owners of bakeries in Milwaukee.
Okay.
Boom, boom, boom. 5 different keystrokes. Up comes this list. Perfect. Free LinkedIn.
Nice. Wow.
Here's all the owners. And I asked the sales team. It was a whole team that we were doing away. I said, is that a good list? They're salivating.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How did I not know I could get that on LinkedIn? I said, Chris, you haven't called me.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yep.
Now, when you get that list, I said, save that search. Then what happens from that point forward is every week you'll get an email from LinkedIn with the new baker owner people in the Milwaukee area in your inbox.
Wow.
That's powerful.
Holy cow.
Set it and forget it. So
okay.
That's another tool that you only get 3 of those working for you on free LinkedIn. You get more on paid.
Okay.
Other than that, a few little things like, one of the things you get on one of the paid accounts is if you want to search in Greater Chicago, on free LinkedIn or premium LinkedIn, you only have the choice Greater Chicago.
Okay.
That's a big area.
Sure, absolutely.
On Premium Sales Navigator, you can put a push pin on a zip code and small as a 10-mile circle, 25. So that could be important. Or how about company size?
Sure.
Let's say you want to search for consultants that do this, but you want bigger consulting firms. Well,
Sure.
for LinkedIn, you can't search by company size.
Gotcha.
Sales Navigator, we can search by company size.
Okay. You used to be able to search more. I mean, did they reduce the amount of searches as time goes on for free?
They reduce the searches and they reduce those filters, Dave.
Okay.
That zip code filter that I just mentioned used to be on premium and free LinkedIn. Now it's only on Sales Navigator.
So there's 3 levels then? Is that what you're saying?
There's more than that, but it really boils down to there's a premium level.
Okay.
There's free, but then if you want to pay, there's a premium channel, there's a recruiter channel, and there's a Sales Navigator channel.
Wow.
And there's different prices in those 3.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you get different things, but the premium level only works with regular LinkedIn, gives you more of the stuff you like. But when you move over to Sales Navigator, it's a completely different tool that uses the LinkedIn profiles, but you push a button and you move to a brand new website called Sales Navigator.
Okay.
But it uses still the data of LinkedIn.
Okay. Wow.
And that's $80. That starts at $80 a month.
Okay. So if I'm not in sales, which again, it's funny, most people, they sell something at some point in time in their life. But if I'm not in sales in my day-to-day job, is what's the value of LinkedIn for those type of people?
Well, if you ever think you're going to make a career move,
okay,
you better get this thing right.
Gotcha.
Because since it's the biggest database of people we've ever had, it's really the only database that the HR people and the headhunters and executive recruiters are using.
Okay.
If you're set for life and you don't think you'll ever need a new job,
yeah,
I don't know, then maybe I'll never be on LinkedIn.
Sure. Yeah.
Except if you're involved with nonprofits.
Okay.
And your nonprofits are always looking to find donors and volunteers and sponsors. Okay. Maybe you can help with that, right? So
Gotcha.
there's reasons to be on LinkedIn if you're not in sales or if you're not looking for work.
Sure.
But you have to, once again, you're back to the definition. You're back to, I had a guy the other day, he was 75 years old, and he said, I'm not on LinkedIn. I'm glad I came to the class. I learned a whole bunch. Should I be? And I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I said, if you're not a consult, he was retired.
Sure.
You're not consulting. You're not involved in nonprofits. And he said, stop. I'm involved in nonprofits.
Okay.
I said, well, maybe LinkedIn could help you.
Sure.
But if that would be a no, then that'd be another thing. And the third thing is, if you don't want to use your network that you've grown over your entire career to help your friends do better in their lives and find jobs, then don't be on it. But if you like that too, if you like helping your grandkids and helping your nieces and nephews because you got this great big network, and if they can see your network, you can get them introduced to some of the right people so they can have better careers, then that could be a reason.
Awesome. Cool. So as I want to turn a corner and start to come in for a landing here. What is the most common mistake that you see people do in LinkedIn? If I'm an average user and I came to your class or I came to a specific coaching one-on-one, what are the common mistakes that you see people, do?
Yeah. So it goes back to sort of what we started with. There's no alignment of your strategy for business or career with your profile and your connections.
Okay.
They're not aligned because you just don't understand how it all works.
Sure.
That's the number one mistake. The number two mistake is not making sure you have a LinkedIn cadence. That means coming into the site every few days. Now, salespeople, it's just what you said, 6 hours a week for sure.
Yeah.
But for the average user who's not in sales, you got to still pop in there a couple times a week, because if you don't respond to things on social media, people get mad. Yeah. Right? It's not like the old snail mail days where we get a letter and go, I'll let this sit around for a few days. It may not have even been delivered yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So those would be two mistakes I would say people are making.
So is the picture important, for instance?
Sure.
I mean, I start to think about that. I start to think about just some of the structural things that I'm shocked that people, I mean, to this day, you still see people that don't have a picture, or, like yours, I see, as your professional picture, I have my, I spent money on that picture just for that piece. And so, but there's people that, you see like a half a head of another person because it's, cropped off from a wedding picture. I mean, those things have to be, considering first impressions are so important, in any business, you know, our brain is within 10 seconds, we're deciding if we like this person or if we don't like this person.
And so think about that. When somebody lands on your profile, there's your circled picture.
Yep.
And then there's the big background behind.
Right.
Right. So those hit them right away.
Yep.
So if those aren't good or not what they want to see for either an employer or a customer or a vendor,
right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Now those pictures are important, but now there's a brand new feature on LinkedIn.
Okay.
As you slide down just a little bit further, there's a new section called featured. Now, featured has some pictures.
Oh, there it is.
It's
looking at yours. Okay.
It's hot.
Okay.
And look at the size of those pictures.
I know.
Right? So that featured thing is now a new space where we have a visual pop or lack of a pop or a poor pop.
Okay.
And so before that, we had only the top with pictures where the visualness and first impression thing could go on. Now we can slide down to this next section and go, okay, what can I learn about this guy here? What can I see? What can I read? What can I watch? What can I listen to?
So in yours, you have something about the best ways to use LinkedIn during the coronavirus pandemic. Is that something that you created and then you put that information into this featured area?
So here's how featured works. You can upload any file you have from your computer. You can link to any web page that you have or anybody's web page.
Okay.
You can also feature articles you've written on LinkedIn or posts you've highlighted on LinkedIn. Any of those four things can be loaded into your featured. And it's the first time, Dave, where one click right to a website. So we've always had some media underneath our jobs, but it was real clunky.
Yeah.
If you click the media, then it said view, and then boom, boom, one click right to a person's website. So people have been screaming for that.
Okay. So if you didn't have that, like if you don't have that on currently, is there a spot that, I mean, do you go on your profile or how do you do that?
So if you don't have featured currently on your profile, go to the blue box that's just to the right of your face that says add profile section.
Okay.
And then there's a little down arrow there. Push the down arrow in the blue box. It'll come up with all the optional LinkedIn sections that you're not using. One of them is featured.
Oh man, that's power.
It is power. I swear this is a feature that if I was running LinkedIn and I was trying to go, how could we get more people to go to premium?
Sure.
I would have said featured's in premium only. Sorry.
Nice. Well, if that happens, I'm blaming you for that because they're listening and they're like, what's Wayne going to tell us today that we can learn? So
listen, they're not listening. Trust me, they ain't listening to Wayne.
Hey, wait a minute here. Come on. If they ain't listening because of me, they're definitely listening because of you.
LinkedIn does not listen to Wayne Breitbarth. I've learned that over the years. Trust me, when I was one of the first guys to ever write a book on LinkedIn, I followed the rules. I filled out the form because they said you can't just put the LinkedIn on your book and all this stuff.
Sure.
I talked to an attorney, and there was hardly any of us doing this. I followed all the rules, and we had a little back and forth. They sort of knew who I was then.
Okay.
You know? And up until this point, now that Microsoft owns LinkedIn, I don't think. I think they know we exist. They know that we help them.
Sure.
But they have not been smart enough to realize that if they grabbed about 20 Wayne Breitbarths and put us on maybe a little retainer or a little, you can fly to San Francisco for a meeting every year where we're going to run new ideas by you.
Sure.
They'd be so smart.
So you don't get a Christmas ham or nothing from LinkedIn?
I don't. And I think about how many people have probably bought Sales Navigator because of me.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. Well, you should sell it and then just resell it at $10 higher so you can make a couple of bucks on it, you know?
Love to do that. They'd probably shut my account down.
Yeah.
And then I'd be real.
Yeah, there you go. Then you'd be Wayne Breitbarth. We'd come up with some new name. I'm sure there'd be a new name and a new picture, an alias. So awesome. One last question for you on that, and then I got a personal question for you. So for the people listening right now, because I know how this works. You jump off of a podcast and you're excited and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm totally going to do this. What are one or two things that they could literally hang up with this, disconnect from us and then jump onto their profile and do as just to kind of move themselves forward. Just one or two simple things, and maybe we already covered them, like the featured section or the LinkedIn social selling index. But I mean, those are the two things I'm going to do when we are done here. So are there any other ones that we didn't talk about that you'd like to make people aware of?
Yeah, besides those that we mentioned, I would go down to my current job section.
Okay.
That's the section that most people are going to look at, because they're going to go, oh, well, let's see what he or she is doing now.
Okay.
And revisit that section.
Okay.
It's 2,000 characters. It can have a couple pieces of media underneath it. And say to yourself, if my target audience, and that target audience could be an employer, target audience could be customer, if my target audience read those 2,000 characters, would it be interesting enough that they'd want to take a phone call from me?
Okay.
And if you can't say that, then it's not done.
Yeah. Okay. So if I struggle with wordsmithing and I'm not creative and I just struggle with, getting my words onto a piece of paper, is that something that you help with to try and wordsmith that stuff, or how do you fit into that?
So I would call that a little bit.
Okay.
I throw out sort of these concepts and maybe wordsmith just a tad.
Okay.
I'm not a writer of profiles.
Okay.
That's not what I do.
Okay. Yeah, it's people think because we're authors that we're great at writing, and the reality is we have this stuff in our head and we just need to get it onto a piece of paper.
And I got my wife, she's my editor, but she's not interested in helping you.
Yeah.
She'd rather be
I was
grandma.
just going to ask, put her on, let's get her on this
She'd
thing.
rather be grandma than help you, trust me.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Sorry,
she could be
Dad.
both. That's fine. She could, I got 4 grandkids. You guys are more than welcome, bring her over. She'll help me on my LinkedIn profile.
Then play with your grandkids?
And then play with the grandkids. So that's a win-win.
She would probably do that part.
Yeah, awesome. So one last question. What's something that most people don't know about you that you want them to know about you?
Most people don't know I'm a CPA.
Okay.
I'm still a card-carrying CPA.
And you admit it. That's the interesting thing.
Yep. So I'm not only a recovering accountant. I still have my certificate in case I need to after COVID. LinkedIn's gone. I guess I got to go count the beans again.
Wow. So we can use you as, if we have tax questions, we can use. Does that work too? No. Cool. All right. Wow. Awesome. So what would be the best? What are a couple of ways for the listeners to get in contact with you?
So my website is powerformula.net.
Okay.
Loads of free goodies, including those articles that you mentioned.
Okay.
Sign up for my weekly tips. I give out free weekly LinkedIn tips through email. Love to have you on that list. I really work hard. My wife and I work hard on that weekly update on new strategies.
And it comes out on Sunday, right?
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And that was strategic. Always during the Packers or the Brewers game.
That they were coming out, or you were typing them up?
They were always should come out, because here's what I thought. You're sitting around watching the Packer game. That way you can read, honey, I'm working over here. I'm doing LinkedIn. Wayne's email came in. I'm not. That way you can push up getting yelled at.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's a strategy behind that one.
And then the third thing is, of course, on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. Send a connection request. Say you heard Dave's podcast. Love to connect with you, because I still am not to 30,000, so I'm okay.
Wow. So when do you think you'll get to 30?
Probably in a couple of years.
Okay. Wow. Well, I hope after you get there that you still keep me on that list, because I could see how I might not make the cut. So, if all of a sudden I'm unfriended, then I'll understand. So
you will be on that list, my friend. I've really enjoyed our friendship over the years. It's been a blast.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, so I appreciate, Wayne, so much you giving us these tips. I'm going to jump on my profile. I'm going to update this. I'm super excited to learn about this social selling index. And you're cool if I tell other people about it, because you just told the world about it. So,
it, man.
And if we need to, anybody that wants to, call Wayne, email him, whatever, just jump on his website. I've sat through his classes. I've sat through personal one-on-ones, and I always kind of shake my head going, I can't believe I'm not doing that. And once I get past that, I can't believe I'm not doing it, then I get into this energized, like, oh my gosh, this is going to change my profile. And so that's what the whole goal is. So I totally appreciate your time, Wayne. And again, let's get back out there as soon as we can and start doing some live presentations and look to see out there.
You bet. Thanks, Dave. Have a good day.
Thanks.